Happy Sunday. Happy Independence Day for the Americans out there, and welcome everyone to episode 27 of Video Game Club. As I mentioned before, this is Video Game Club, where every 2 weeks we discuss a game voted on by our wonderful friends in the Bombchu Discord and discuss that game right here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV. And if you can't catch us live, no problem. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search Bombchu. As always, I'm your host, and I have with me today everyone's favorite janitor, Austin.
Burgle.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Video Game Club episode without the director herself, Mox.
Hello.
Hello. Now, before we get started, what have you been playing besides Control, Mox?
There is this solitaire game that was panned in all of these reviews, but I love so much, called the Solitaire Conspiracy.
Oh my
god! They
gosh.
put it on Switch, and I love it. I almost beat every level.
I think there's some
highly
like
recommend it.
influencers that are like have cameos in there and stuff.
I
Sure.
don't recognize it. I don't. I'm not in the. I'm not in the know, but I like the mechanics. I like solitaire.
Yeah, Solitaire's fun.
It's
What
really
about-
pretty, and it uses the HD rumble features. It's really cool. Okay,
Whoa.
That's it. I know.
And you're done with Nier.
Oh, I was done like a month ago.
Okay. What about you, Austin? What have you been playing?
I have finally got a setup at my desk where I can play console games more easily. So I've been kind of playing more console stuff. I finished up Super Metroid.
Ooh.
And I've been working on Sin and Punishment. So I finished the first one. Now I'm working on Star Successor. And that's been just a lovely little surprise.
What
Nice.
even is that? I've never even heard of that.
It's a Nintendo franchise, believe it or not,
What?
that was developed by Treasure. They're on-rail shooters.
Oh,
Yep.
that's why. That sucks.
The first one was Japan only on the N64, and the second one was a Wii title. And the first one's very interesting, but it's also got some complicated controls, especially if you're not playing on an N64 controller.
Huh.
But the Wii one is really well suited to the Wii remote and nunchuck. Like, it's really good. I usually don't like aiming stuff at the TV with the Wii remote, but it feels very good in that game.
Isn't it called the Wiimote?
It's called the Wii remote, and people
Oh.
have started calling it. People started calling it Wiimote when it first was announced, but I don't think Nintendo has
Embrace that
officially
term.
embraced that. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
gee.
you could say it either way. I don't care.
Okay, I thought you were going to be a purist. I mean, like people who have Apple Watches and you call it an iWatch, and you're like, it's an Apple Watch. People get really mad about
Plump little electronic device. Android's terrible. Come here.
that.
Yeah.
Well, now that you started with that, let's move on.
I can't. Anytime someone does the whole Apple Watch iWatch comparison, I cannot not do that. Yeah, I've been playing some Paper Mario, the new one, and I got Link's Awakening on Switch and Pikmin 3.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Pikmin 1 and 2 are next in my sights after
What?
Sin and Punishment.
Ooh.
Pikmin 1, you
It's
have
amazing.
to play, like, if you miss a day or 2 or 3, I think it's 3 days, not getting a piece of your ship, then the game is over.
Yeah, well,
In
don't be trash.
In the new Play Control version or whatever for the Wii,
Yeah.
which I'm playing it on my I'm going to play it on my Wii U. If you just like completely screw up a day, then you can go back and redo that day. Like, you'll have to start your save at that day, but
That's nice.
yeah, so you're not completely screwed and like have to start all over again if you just like have a few bad days or something in a row.
I got that game. We were just talking about GameStop. I got that game. I did 5 days, couldn't get a piece of my ship. Looked up a walkthrough on GameFAQs. They said, sorry, you can't finish the game. You have to restart. Brought it to GameStop. They said, I don't know, we'll give you like $3 for it. I was like, great, take it off my hands.
Oh, jeez.
So, anyway, gosh. As a reminder, the nominations for this episode that were suggested by Mox included Control, Pocket Card Jockey, which I'm really sad didn't get picked,
I
and
know,
Cloud
let's just
Punk.
play it. Bruce Rogue game.
Every time Mox does a vote, Whatever game she wants to win. Doesn't win, she goes, let's just play it anyway. Let's
Have I really
screw
said
the
it every
rest."
time? I just love
It could be worse. Could pull a Chris and put 2 games you don't like, 1 game you like, and then the games you don't like gets picked. Next thing you know, we're
He has
playing
hated
Beyond
himself.
Two Souls.
Oh no.
I think he's hated his own games more than any other game that's been picked.
Probably. And then the third game was Cloudpunk. And of course, after the vote ended, Control was the winner. So let's jump in. Control is a third-person action-adventure game developed by Remedy Entertainment, published by 505 Games, released on PC, PS4, Xbox One on August 27th, 2019. What was going on in 2019 in North America? Well, we
COVID.
had, what?
I said COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
at the very end of the year, yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Tetris Effect, Disco Elysium, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and many, many more. And then on the hardware side, I mean, we had some stuff too, like Valve Index, Switch Lite, Oculus Quest, and Austin's favorite console, the Google Stadia, where he plays all his games.
How many games does it have anymore?
It's got some, more than 30, less than 50.
Legend has it,
probably.
they released a game maybe in the last month for it.
Wow. One whole game.
And then a lot of the we're gonna a little more trash on Stadia, and then a lot of their games that they said like is only possible because of Stadia are now coming to other platforms like Orcs Must Die 3, Super Bomberman R, the like online version.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the engine that this game used was Remedy's proprietary engine called Northlight, and it was first used actually with Quantum Break. So let's talk about Remedy Entertainment. Founded in 1995,
Wow.
based in Espoo, Finland. Espoo.
Oh, the Finnish
Espoo?
people listening to this are so bad at you.
Founded by members of a group called Future Crew, who specialized in creating demos, and this was really interesting to read about. There's like this scene, or there was this scene of like just making demos, and that's what like these developers did.
What is that? What do you mean just making demos?
Whenever I read into it, I was like shocked. Like I was just like, what? Apparently, they just specialize in like making demos of games.
Oh, so like the game already exists, they're just making a demo for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought they're just making demos for non-existent games.
And that could also be happening. Who knows?
I don't know, things are so weird.
Their first game was Death Rally in 1996 on DOS and Windows. Did anybody play it?
I did not play that one. I think I've played almost everything else that they've done, but I didn't even know that was a game they made until a couple of days ago.
Mm.
It looks like it's pronounced Espo.
Oh, Espo?
I thought you were going to say it looks like it's pronounced Deathrella.
We're going to save that conversation when we talk about Nier Automata.
Oh, gosh. Shortly after Death Rally came Max Payne, of course, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and then Control. And they're also currently making Crossfire X, which is like a story campaign of the Crossfire games. And they also announced recently a Control multiplayer sequel, right?
It's a spin-off.
Spin-off?
It's like a 4-player PvE spin-off, and then there's also apparently going to be another a bigger single-player game.
Crazy.
Coming as well.
And as of 2020, they had more than 280 employees. Before we move on, like, does anybody want to say anything about like their other games? Like, I don't know, whether you played them, you like them, anything?
I have played Alan Wake, if you can believe it, because I don't like scary games. But it's really good. I really like it. It is scary. But it's like, I don't know, very, very thriller more than horror, I guess.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. And I like how it's not about combat so much as like, use your flashlight, investigate stuff, talk to people. You know how much I love talking to people.
True.
Yeah, Alan Wake is really. It's got some really good music in it as well. Did you play American Nightmare?
No, that one's
okay.
bleh.
No, I think it's more fun to play. Like Alan Wake itself is really like oddly paced, but I like the story in base Alan Wake more for sure. But American Nightmare, I think, is definitely worth playing if you like the story for Alan Wake.
Why aren't you guys talking about Quantum Break?
Quantum Break kind of
I don't know anything
stinks,
about it.
but Max Payne is really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
Max Payne
it's
is
kind of
good.
aged poorly, but like, even if you try Max Payne and you're not like into it, you can at least enjoy the story and like the ambiance that they do. And so like the Night Springs stuff that they do in Alan Wake, they kind of have a soap opera thing, if I remember right, that's similar to that in Max Payne, which is fun. And they didn't do Max Payne 3. Rockstar ended up doing that after they sold the franchise to Rockstar, but it's a great game. I really enjoyed playing through that one, and I thought it carried on the legacy nicely.
What about the GBA
the guy,
port?
Oh god. The guy who voices Max Payne actually voices the previous director in this game.
Oh!
And the guy who plays Alan Wake is Dr. Darling in this game.
Oh! Well, he's also Alan Wake.
Spoilers.
That's not a spoiler. These games always cross over. Anyway, keep going, sir.
I think this is the first time they crossed over, but Quantum Break, not a great game. An interesting idea from like the whole TV show that's part of a game.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, your choices change what the show's going to be. And it's usually pretty small choices, like changes. Some like there was some poster that you could like find, and it would show up in the background of a scene, things like that. But yeah, in general, I very much enjoy Remedy's stuff. I always look forward to any new games that they've got coming out.
Kudos,
Nice.
Remedy.
Nice. So let's do a general overview of Control. So, third-person action-adventure game, like we mentioned before. It's set within the oldest house, which is a skyscraper in New York City and the headquarters of the FBC, or Federal Bureau of Control. And they study AWEs, or Altered World Events, and collections of OOPs, Objects of Power. They love TLAs in this game, I have noticed. You play as Jessie Faden, who has come to the oldest house seeking answers about her brother after a prior AWE. But you become more involved in fighting something called the Hiss. Control is built in a Metroidvania format. The large world map that can be explored at a non-linear pace, unlike Remedy's previous titles, which were primarily linear. Would you agree with that explanation? Mox, I heard you go,
Well, I guess like for the first, I don't know, half of the game, I feel like it's very linear, like Alan Wake, and I felt like it was, oh, go here. And where in Alan Wake, it's like, oh, where's the next lamppost? I gotta be in the light. Here, it's kind of like, okay, gotta go straight. But then when you like free up the lockdown, I guess you're right, it does become open.
Yeah. As the player completes main story missions, they will encounter areas known as control points, which can be unlocked after clearing the area of enemies, and then used both as save points and fast travel throughout the building. And you can fast travel to previously unlocked control points. As the player completes missions, they unlock more of the building to explore, along with additional side quests, in addition to various rewards. These rewards include skill points, which can be used to improve Jessie's powers that she gains over time in the game. I'm not gonna spoil really what those powers are right now. We'll talk about them later. Mission rewards can also include resources that can be used to improve your weapon. They can be used to like craft other perks and weapons as well. And some of the perks also like help your base attributes of your character, which is really interesting. Various side quests and optional time-limited mission alerts are available for additional rewards as well. An AI system, which I didn't know about this whenever I was playing. I learned about this later. There's an AI system known as the Encounter Director, which controls interactions with enemies based on the player's level and location in the oldest house. So that means like all of our playthroughs were probably pretty unique as far as like when we would encounter enemies. Yeah, pretty nuts. Enemies in Control are predominantly human agents of the FBC possessed by the Hiss. They range from standard humans carrying firearms to heavily mutated variations that possess a variety of superpowers. That is a little overview of the game. Now, before we move into the plot, is there anything like about Control that you just want to, like a little overview stuff, non-spoilery, that you want to mention?
Your gun is kind of interesting in this game in that you don't really manage picking up ammo. You have and you don't have a reload. You have you have a max amount of ammo, and when you're not shooting, it's regenerating into that clip. And if you run out of ammo, like if you fully use your clip, then you just can't shoot until it fully recharges, which is an interesting setup. It actually reminded me a bit of Alan Wake.
With the flashlight?
With the flashlight, yeah. Because you could just not use batteries at all if you just would focus your flashlight, but then let the battery recharge before you consumed the whole thing. And that was like one of my favorite things to do in that game, was just super conserve resources and go very efficient on batteries. So I thought that was an interesting piece to this game.
I liked the settings because you can't like customize like the difficulty of the game. Let me say, you can customize the difficulty of the game, and you can customize how easy you want to make it on top of that. You can, I should pull it up. You can set like how fast your ammo recharges, what percent damage you take, how fast your energy to use your powers recharges. And there's also just checkboxes for like aim snapping, God mode, and one-hit kills, which I really like. I didn't use any of the checkboxes, so I'm gonna defend myself if you guys say I cheated. But
you said you cheated.
I know. I just
didn't know about
whatever.
these
I mean, these are they're cheats basically. But I like how I could. I mean, for example, I made it through like probably half the game without using anything, and then there's like a part where it just ramps up. I just couldn't keep up for some reason. I think I was just not putting my ability points appropriately, and so I kind of just like adjusted the settings like by one tick every time I died. And then I found a point where I was having a lot of fun and dying only a couple times instead of every time. And I just really liked that you could customize it that much in the game. And you can still get achievements. I still platinum the game, even though I use the little settings. And it doesn't punish you for that. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. You play the game to have fun. I really appreciated that. I wish every game would do that. It was amazing.
That's good. It sounds a lot like Celeste in that it's not... it sounds like it's not treated as cheats, which is good. It's like accessibility options.
Yeah.
Like Last of Us did that too with like slow-mo and stuff as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know in Celeste you could like change how many jumps you had and like how long you could hang on to walls and stamina and stuff like that to just kind of tweak it to be like, I'm having a great time, except I keep messing up this or whatever. But,
I appreciate that. That's really nice. I mean, like, I'm sure it's made for people who are just like children or people who like have actual physical disabilities or something. But I just have a hard time looking all around me and seeing all the enemies. And I just...
Well, also, like, not everyone is a hardcore action Twitch-based gamer, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to enjoy a movie story, all you have to do is sit down and watch the movie. And like, I mean, to a degree, you need to be able to like understand and like put two and two together for maybe some more... more intelligent movies, but for a game, if you want to experience the story or the scenes, like there's this barrier of, well, you have to be able to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you progress the story, right, in a game, which makes horror, like for me at least, like in a game, much more
horror games are tough for me as well.
Than a movie. Yeah,
just play it through my fingers, interlaced little hole in the fingers, or just googling all the jump scares. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah,
that was it. That's all I had.
All right, let's talk about the plot, which will be super spoilery, and we can talk about also like powers and stuff in here as well. Okay, so in October 2019, Jessie, your character that you play as, Jessie Faden, she arrives at the oldest house following a telepathic message from Polaris.
Well, Polaris is how they pronounce it.
Polaris, okay. Seeking the whereabouts of her kidnapped brother, Dylan. Inside the building, Jessie discovers the lifeless body of Zachariah Trench and is instructed by Polaris to pick up his fallen service weapon. Now, Zachariah Trench was the director before, right?
Of the Federal Bureau of Control. You're in that building.
Yep. Jessie is translocated to the astral plane, where the board immediately appoints her as the new director of the FBC in Trench's stead. Exiting Trench's office, Jessie is attacked by FBC agents possessed by an entity Jessie dubs the Hiss. Jessie learns that the entire oldest house is under emergency lockdown following the Hiss's spread, and that everyone in the building has been possessed by the Hiss except those wearing HRAs, or Hadron Resonance Amplifiers, which are devices built by a missing Bureau scientist, Dr. Casper Darling. They're used to protect people from the Hiss. Jessie agrees to aid the surviving Bureau agents in reclaiming the building and containing the Hiss in exchange for seeking Dylan's whereabouts. So she's mainly only doing this for herself, right? Especially in the beginning.
Well, yeah. For her brother.
Yeah, but I mean, like her own game.
Like her main goal is not to help the FBC, it's to go find her brother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Using an object of power known as the Hotline, Jessie communicates with the deceased Trench and learns that his former management team knows the secrets of the Bureau, including the location of Dylan. After lifting the building's lockdown in the maintenance sector, Jessie enters the research sector in search of Helen Marshall, one of the members of Trench's management team, whom she helps secure the production of more HRAs. Marshall reveals that Dylan, known to the Bureau as Prime Candidate 6, or P6, was being groomed to succeed Trench as the Bureau's director due to his immense supernatural abilities.
Paranatural, right?
Huh?
The word that they use is paranatural.
Oh, paranatural.
I was just making fun.
Gosh.
Keep going.
However, after killing several Bureau agents, Dylan was deemed too dangerous and locked away in the containment sector. Jessie rushes to the sector to find Dylan, only to learn that he has escaped and surrendered to the Bureau in the executive sector. Dylan reveals to Jessie that he has embraced the Hiss and that the Hiss entered the oldest house through the slide projector object of power the Bureau recovered from Ordinary. I believe, isn't the slide projector also like how Dylan got, like, isn't it related? Like, didn't she know of it before entering this building?
Do you want to say that part of the story now?
Go for it.
I mean, we're in the spoilers section.
Yeah, I guess. Well, so Jessie and Dylan, when they were kids, were part of their town was called Ordinary. They lived in Ordinary, and they found a slide projector in the dump, which ended up being an object of power. So they brought it to like another area and were playing with it. You could like put certain slides in, and it would basically project like a realm that you could enter. And then at some point, shit. Like the stuff was happening to the town. Like I think, for example, Jessie like had a thought that she wished that all the adults were gone, and then all the adults were gone, and then kids started turning into creatures, and then Jessie burned the slides because all but one of the slides because like bad things were happening, and then the FBC came and collected the slide projector and Dylan, and then they couldn't find Jessie, but Jessie had already been like, she was like made a connection with something that was in one of the slides called Polaris, and then like she helped, I think, protect her maybe, but anyway, they got Dylan but not Jessie. So that's why she was looking for Dylan, because she knew the FBC took him.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about. So Ati, who is this janitor, gives Jessie a cassette player, which enables her to navigate this elaborate maze protecting the slide projector's chamber in the research sector, because they, I guess, got it back, right?
Yeah, they've had it the whole time since Ordinary.
We're downplaying this part a little bit. This is like the coolest part of the game.
It was awesome. What was like the song? This like Finnish like rock, heavy metal, like death metal song.
We're on the edge, glory. Oh my god, it was a great song. It was a great segment. Like it just perfectly paired together. Oh.
Well, and then at the end, as you're walking out, she like takes her headset off and she's like, "That was awesome."
It's just like, it's so perfect.
That the song is also like done by a band that's in Alan Wake, right?
Oh, I think
probably.
There's a lot of crossover.
Yeah. So she finds the slide projector missing, but learns that Trench and Darling used the device to orchestrate several expeditions to an alternate dimension known as Slidescape 36, where they discovered an entity they dubbed Hadron. Jesse finds Hedron and discovers that it is Polaris, but moments later the Hiss attacks and destroys Hedron. Jesse's mind is invaded by the Hiss, but Jesse is able to rediscover Hedron's resonance within herself, saving her and the Bureau. In the process, Jesse learns that Trench was the first individual to be possessed by the Hiss during the expeditions to Slidescape 36, and was responsible for releasing the Hiss into the oldest house. Jesse finds the slide projector in the executive sector, where Dylan and the Hiss are attempting to enter the astral plane and overtake the board. Jesse deactivates the slide projector and seemingly cleanses the Hiss from Dylan, who falls into a coma. Accepting her new role as director, Jesse resolves to defeat the remaining Hiss in order to restore order to the Bureau. And that is how the game basically is like, yeah, go back and finish everything and play forever. And we'll talk about that in the development of the game, because that was something that was actually pretty important to them, was that the game would have replayability. So that's why they kept it open. Now, I'm not going to talk about Foundation or AWE, because I did not play them, and it wasn't part of like, hey, make sure you play the DLC. But Austin, you played the DLC, right?
Yes, I did both of those with all the side missions.
Mox, did you also play the DLC?
I played half of Foundation, mostly to get enough ability points to platinum the game.
Is there anything that you guys want to say about those in the spoilery section?
Since we are in the spoilers section, the Foundation is not great. It's
What?
okay.
Really?
I mean, it's fine, but it's very different from like the base campaign, and the powers in it are a little bit weird.
They're cool.
What?
You get 2 new powers in there that are only used in that area.
What are they?
One of them
So they're
they're
both
creates
called
platforms.
Shape. Yeah.
Okay.
Shape is
Yeah,
both of them together.
One of them is Shape. I don't remember what the other one is.
Create.
I don't think it was called
I
Shape.
thought they were both together called Shape, and one was Create, and the other one was something else. Their names are stupid.
I can't remember. The other power was so unmemorable that I don't even remember what
one
it is.
destroys crystals that grow out of wall ceilings, and the other one pulls them out so you can make a platform for yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's not bad by any means. It's just compared to the base campaign, it's like, it's whatever. The AWE is very good, and if you've played Alan Wake, then you should definitely play that.
Right.
That DLC.
That is the I guess full acknowledgement of the link between the Remedy cinematic universe.
Yeah, at the end of that DLC, they actually tease kind of like the next game.
Alan Wake or Control?
Both.
Oh, that's cool.
Ooh,
Well,
yeah.
Since we're talking about it, so throughout the entire game, you could pick up tons of little, I think they're called, I don't remember what they're called, just like multimedia thingy,
Yep.
or they're called collectibles.
Mhm.
Like images, case files, research reports, letters between people, letters that people receive from strangers in the universe. And there's just so much, and they're awesome. But there's a whole bunch about I think they call it the Bright Falls AWE at Cauldron Lake, which is of course Alan Wake. So even before the AWE thing, you're like, oh, Alan Wake. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say just Alan Wake was identified as being a potential P8, as it were, since Jesse's P7. I thought that was cute.
They also talk. Isn't there also like a link to the Alan Wake game, the spin-off one, or whatever?
American Nightmare?
Yeah.
So American Nightmare is just a continuation of that story.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually, like, it's funny to watch them grow from game to game, because, like, American Nightmare, they actually did a lot of live-action cutscenes.
Oh, similar to Quantum Break, I guess.
So then, Quantum Break, they go, okay, well, let's go ahead and make a full-on TV show, right? Yeah, the story, like, American Nightmare definitely continues on the story. It doesn't, like, finish it, but it keeps it going for sure. So I Mox, you really have to play.
I intend to. I ran out of time. I wanted to platinum, and then I was like, okay, well, there we go.
Okay.
All right. So
wait, we're not done yet. Hold on. I loved the items the collectibles. They all had like a little bit of flavor, and there were ones that were like ones from the past when the Bureau was like up and running and, in the golden age. And then there were also ones that were being made concurrently, presumably by like Emily Pope, your chief of whatever research, I guess. And I liked hearing the voice of like, you know, the writers in those. And there's a lot of funny things. I know, Austin, when we first voted for this game, you were like, look for the replicating
the post-it note.
Yeah,
room.
sticky note. And like, I really liked that one.
Yeah, that was cool.
Like,
that was cool.
Get these out of here. And then also there were a lot of live action, like we were talking about, Casper Darling.
Yep.
Telling us about like various things going on, and I liked his like descent into madness about the hiss and the resonance and Hedron and all that. I did not. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're about to talk about
I
it.
didn't watch a single one of the stupid, whatever they were called, the something kids.
The Threshold Kids?
Yes, didn't watch a single one.
They're so good.
No, there's like so many little correspondence letters that are like, oh, and kids love puppets, right? So we got to make this video series about control to teach kids about control and AWEs. So that's what the Threshold Kids is. And then they were just horrifying puppets. Monstrous.
It reminds me of the Japanese Resident Evil commercials. Did you guys see any of those? Like the Resident Evil?
I've seen those.
I don't watch scary things with puppets.
They got kind of popular on YouTube, where they were a bunch of puppets made out of the Resident Evil Village main characters, and they were like, "We're not scary. We're not scary." Just yeah,
it's horrifying.
Ugh. All right. I think for Control, whenever we get to our opinions, we should probably put on the spoiler tag again.
Okay,
so that we can discuss powers and such, especially the one power that's really, really cool that I'm sure you guys know.
Can I call out one thing before we get to get out of this spoiler section? The probability area.
Yes.
Probability area.
Luck and probability. It's where you meet Marshall's people the first time.
It's like there's this little side mission there that's not even marked as a side mission, I don't think. Mox, I believe that's how you got your swanky outfit, right?
Then I'm definitely missed it.
I got like 6 outfits.
That was just super cool. There's all sorts of little like random interesting ideas that were scattered all around, and that was just a good example of one. There's a luck and probability area where like things don't really work the way that they should. Like there's a few different items around that you have to manipulate to change your luck to solve a puzzle. God, it's super cool.
It was awesome.
I might have to like just go and find that mission and do it.
Well, there's like a bunch of little things, mostly in the research area, I think. But I don't know, like in one area they have like a little lab, and that you can press a button and it'll turn on this song extremely loudly in this area to make you like. And they were investigating like, how does this song affect you, or other random stuff like that. It was cute.
The classic grow plants to classical music versus metal and see how they grow. Experiment.
Yeah, this was just like a really weird, depressing song.
Oh, yeah.
It was horrible.
And some of the side missions, like the actual side missions, were also really good. Like the
trash one,
the fridge monster,
yes,
for example.
Former.
Oh my god! Like that fight kind of drove me crazy, but it was a really interesting idea. They're like, "Oh, come back here and relieve this guy so that because somebody has to be watching this fridge at all times. And he hasn't blinked in 24 hours." Oh my god, Jeez. That was wild.
That was such a great one. And collecting all of the little, they're called altered objects or something like that.
Objects of power?
Yeah.
No, the altered items, AIs.
Oh.
There was like a rubber ducky and a pink flamingo, and then a game of red light, green light.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's so much like little just flavor in the game. Anyway, we can move on because we're running out of time.
No, that's all right.
I have more to say in my opinion section, so I'm glad we're doing spoilers.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the development a bit. So Control was developed, like we already mentioned, by Remedy Entertainment, and it was their first release since their IPO, which was in 2017.
Oh, wow.
And also their separation from Microsoft as a publishing partner. So this was a pretty big game for them, something they needed to get right with the IPO happening and leaving Microsoft as a publishing partner. It was completed within 3 years versus Alan Wake, which took 7 years, and Quantum Break 5 years, and it had a $41.5 million budget, which is actually pretty low for a AAA game, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow.
Don't worry, they made their money back, which we'll talk about later. Yeah. So the director of the game I'm gonna attempt to say his name. I believe he probably would not call himself Michael. It's probably like Mikhail Kassurinen. And he worked on Alan Wake as a lead gameplay designer and Quantum Break as lead director. And he was also controls director. And then there was also Sam Blake, who served as the game's writer and creative director alongside narrative lead, Anna.
As well as the original face of Max Payne.
Wow. They just kind of didn't even turn outside their community for looking for people.
Mm-hmm. The development of the game actually began before the release of Quantum Break, which maybe you can see some of that in Quantum Break if you played it. I don't know. Maybe. But as maybe you could tell that Quantum Break needed more love is what I was trying to lead to. But
yeah.
As they were finishing Quantum Break and deciding on the next project, the director recognized that the game rested heavily on full motion video and other cinematic elements, and they suggested that they look more at open world games where the player would drive the experience. They didn't want to focus on creating like a large and complex story, but instead want to put an emphasis on creating a game world instead and a universe that's rich enough for players to craft their own stories. They still wanted to leave little narrative elements for players to discover to help flesh out the world, and so that's why Control has all the optional documents and audio logs and live action video footage. And what's really cool is like you can view those at your own pace. Like you can just find a bunch of them and then, when you're ready, sit down and read them all. And I think it does a really good job of telling you what you haven't read and what you have read and organizing them.
You can sort by unread. There you go.
Yeah. Another goal for the team was to create a game that has high replayability, which we kind of already touched on a little bit. And I think it definitely fulfilled that goal. It was nice. I was a little worried after completing it that it'd be over, and I was really happy that it was not over.
Well, it does. Games do one of two things. Either they have you save before the point of no return, and then you finish the game, and then they're like, all right, it didn't really end. You just go back to the point of no return right before it, and then pretend as if you didn't finish the game. But this game, you can talk to all of the people and say like, hey, they're like, wow, great job,
Yep.
What can I do for you? And the story happens. Like she appoints all the people that are left to be her little, friendly group of people. I love it. Such a good idea. I hope everyone does this from now on. Okay, keep going.
Completely surprise to you guys, I'm sure. The gathered writings of the fictional SCP Foundation, or Secure, Contain, Protect website was a major influence on Control. Stories on SCP Foundation's site are based on singular objects with strange paranormal impacts, and as a whole, they are narratively linked by the common format of reports written by the fictional SCP Foundation, which catalogs and studies the objects.
I think they did a better job being an SCP game than the SCP game.
I have not played it, nor...
I've only watched it. It's
Okay. Are you big into SCP stuff, Austin?
I've never read SCPs directly, but there's a few that are notorious that that I know the stories of. I kind of broached it a little bit when a long time ago I got into creepypastas.
Mm-hmm.
That always was kind of tangential to that.
Yeah.
But
I am huge into SCPs, and I just loved this game. And there's so many SCPs, and I've probably read 300 of them. But all of these were novel, and it was definitely homage more than copying. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
Jerome is asking, what is an SCP?
SCP... yeah, go ahead, Mox.
Well, I was just going to say, anything you could think of. My favorite one is the one that's the anti-meme, where it's basically people write up these fictional items that belong to the, you're talking about the Secure, Contain, Protect, which is this, fictional organization that goes and collects items that are called SCPs, and the SCPs always have a number after them. That's how you identify them. There's a lot of them that I think are very popular. I can't think of any of their names, but they're categorized by if they're...
The Rake is an SCP, right?
I don't even remember. I've read so many of them, but
yeah.
I guess my favorite one is called the anti-meme. Basically, it's this item that you can investigate it, research it as much as you want, but any information that you collect about it and any memories, any conversations you record, any data you collect, it all just erases as soon as you kind of put your attention away from it. The only thing you can remember about this item is that it exists. And so they have to keep it in this, box, and because otherwise people will have memory loss if they have to deal with it. I mean, you can definitely see how it relates to Control. But they also have, like, people make fun little SCPs for, like, Doctor Who's, traveling box and, some other kind of item from another game or TV show that's, like, important. So they'll just it'll be, like, a reference to it. Or there's this one that's, like, you can't write about the SCP, so the entire page describing it is in, like, IKEA, instruction manual images. It's very cute.
Yeah, so back to Control. The design's team goal is not to create terrifying moments, as one would do in a horror game, but instead create a continuing sense of dread for the player instead of horror. And I could feel that. I wasn't really scared, but I could definitely feel the dread for sure. There was also some influence from A Clockwork Orange and The Shape of Water as well. It's kind of interesting. The game's architecture is based off this building in New York called AT&T Long Lines Building, which is a windowless building in New York City. And it was like an example of this like architecture style called brutalism. Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. I was gonna say that they brought it back to like classic, 60s spy movie kind of technology, and I was like, well, that's kind of lame. This obviously takes place in 2019, but then there was a document that said that the oldest house rejects any items from the modern era, so they have to use, older old technology. Yeah, that's how
they thought of everything.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Remedy also confirmed the existence of a shared universe between Alan Wake and Control known as the RCU, Remedy Connected Universe.
No!
Yeah, I mean, Austin, you kind of already touched on the game's voice cast of the game, how Jesse Faden was played by the same Courtney Hope, who played Beth Wilder in Quantum Break.
Her brother was also the main character in Quantum Break.
Yeah, and then it had James McCaffrey, which was from Max Payne, Thomas Zane and Alan Wake, who played the director, Matthew Peretta, a lot of like voice actors. There was a Finnish actor who voiced the janitor. Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the Sam Lake, he was yearning to add his native Finland to one of their games, and so Control presented a great opportunity to do this. So
I like when Jessie first meets him, she's like, I think he's Swedish.
I know, yeah, it's funny.
How would she know?
Yeah, seriously. Austin, you probably have some experience with this last piece. Control was one of the first games to support new graphics cards with RTX, or real-time ray tracing, and it was seen as like the killer app for RTX whenever it was first released.
Yes. It looks really good in RTX. Like, I've seen some other games where they'll show side by side RTX on and off, and I'm just like, I don't understand what the difference is. In here, there were times, especially like when you're in like the white void, just like your reflections off of the ground just look amazing. Yeah, if you have an RTX card, crank it up for this game. If you are going to be getting an RTX card soon, I would hold off on playing this until you get it. That's what I did. Like, I had been playing through a bit, and then I had made the decision I was going to get a 3080, and it took me months to get one, but I waited until I got it, and oh god, it looks really good.
Mox, you played on PS5, right?
Yes.
The Ultimate Edition?
Yes.
Same as me. Did you use I think it supports RTX in that game.
I don't even think I turned it on. I was more stunned by how it supported the fancy features in the PS5 controller.
Oh yeah, the haptic feedback stuff.
And and like how it locks your right trigger when you actually have your gun like equipped in trigger mode, and so it feels like you're actually pulling a trigger. It's super cool.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, so let's talk about the release and reception, unless anyone else has anything about the development side they'd like to talk about.
No.
Jerome has a note about Sam Lake's actual name.
Oh, go ahead, Austin.
I don't know how to pronounce that. That's always been Finnish has been always been a weak spot for me. But
I know, yeah.
It says Sam Lake's actual name is Sammy.
Jervy?
So maybe I've already messed up on the first name. Sammy. I'm gonna guess Yarvi, which is apparently the literal translation of Sam Lake.
Love it. That's the best.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, just remember how I said they made their money back?
Yes.
As of December 2020, they sold over 2 million copies. So if you do the math there, you can see that they definitely made back their money. The game got 8s and 9s from critics. It was nominated for several awards in the game industry, and it won several as well, such as Art Direction, Game Direction, Visual Effects, Action Game of the Year, and many others. It also got Game of the Year from several large critics, such as IGN. And I already mentioned this, but it was considered like the way to show off RTX. And in fact, NVIDIA partnered with them a bit. I remember I think they may have given the game away for free with some of their cards. There was some sort of promotion that they had.
That's possible. It's also a big, one of the big examples for DLSS 2.0, which pairs very well with RTX.
There you go. So let's talk about our personal takes, and I will start. So I have very limited exposure to Remedy games.
Sorry, do we need to do spoilers
for
this
we
section?
Should.
I know
we
you
should.
mentioned
We
that
should.
earlier.
We should. Let me pop that on. Good call. Good catch. So I have very limited exposure to Remedy games. I played Max Payne when it first came out, but that was about it. I didn't play Alan Wake. I think I played the first time I played Alan Wake was this year or last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I only played it for an hour or so. So when Control initially got announced, I wasn't super excited for it like many others were. I also heard really good things after it came out from friends and colleagues, so when it got picked for Video Game Club, I was really excited to check it out. This game is really fun, super fun. The game controls really well, and the way they introduced new abilities worked perfectly. I thought it was just so good. The game also has a really good overall presentation, with the colors and the particle effects and all that. But the game, to me, it didn't really look that good, and I think it's because of the effects that they put on. So by default, they have film grain on, as well as motion blur, and sometimes for me, my preference is to turn those off. And once I turned them off, it looked a lot better. So if you're, I don't know if sensitive is the right word, but if you're not a huge fan of film grain or motion blur, and you're noticing this game could look just a little something's off, I would recommend turning those off. The particles, oh my gosh. Just whenever you would use your close combat ability, or you would use your telekinesis, all of it was I loved going every just desk that I walked up to, just using your melee attack on it, your close range attack, and just watching papers and stuff fly. It was so cool. I also like how this game goes from you being locked into a building with a bunch of enemies to they're locked in this building with you towards the end. Especially in the maze part, you really feel that. You really feel you're starting, you're powerful now, as well as towards the end of the game you feel pretty powerful as well. So yeah, I thought that was really great. But for me, I didn't really care too much about the story. And it could be that we just came off Beyond Two Souls, which is also a brother-sister story as well. I was just kind of it's cool, but I don't know. It didn't feel very unique to me. So it was nice, but it wasn't super special. So for me, I would say this game was good, but I wouldn't consider it this whenever I hear people talk about this game, they talk about how it's just this game that everyone sleeps on, and it's an amazing game, and oh my god, if you haven't played Control, you need to play it. It has to be played now. Da 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 da. For me, I would say I could have not have played this and been fine. I didn't feel I was missing out on anything, and once I played it, I don't feel I'm all of a sudden in some sort of no, or I'm I've been awakened and I'm oh yeah, this is the most amazing game. But it it was nice. It was like a nice, fun game, controlled well, but it was just like with the story, and I still like didn't like the art style that they went with. Like, I was just kind of like, it was okay. So I would give it a 7 out of 10. Mox.
I really liked this game. I thought that it had like a lot of like character in the storyline and the lines that people said, and all the things that you could read. There's never a dull moment. What I would do, like we were talking about earlier, is like I'd collect probably like 10 or 15 pieces of media to read, and then I'll play in the game, and then when I got to like a kind of lull, I would just read them all, and it was always fun. I really liked the personality that everyone had. I liked that one guy, Langston. He's like super gross and weird, but I still like him as a person, as a character. And it looked like he had a repaired cleft palate. When have you ever seen a character in a video game with repaired cleft palate? Never. Unless you correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen that.
No, that's a good point.
And he was like such like a slimy kind of weird guy, but he feels like he's a human being. Like, he has a cat at home. He was like, he says, "I hope someone feeds my cat," and then Jessie thinks to herself, didn't he hire a pet sitter? Just like stuff like that happens in this game that I was thinking myself. I do agree that the storyline was like the primary storyline was meh. I didn't care at all about whatever, I don't remember his name, Dylan. And I can't believe Jessie was never like, my brother was locked up because he killed some people. That sounds like a bad idea. I understand it's because he was like, he became one with the hiss. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I wish they kind of went into that. And I also am kind of grumpy that, does he wake up in any of the DLCs? I don't think so.
I don't think he shows up at all in the DLCs.
It was an afterthought. But other than that, it's mostly like the little things in the game that are the best. I mean, like,
would you consider Jessie a superhero?
In the sense that she has powers, yes. But I really like how she has these powers, and she's like, oh, I guess I have these powers. And then she's like, hey, I can go do that thing because I know I can do it. Or like there are times where she's in an area that, a whole bunch of rangers died. And then she, cleanses the item that's there. And she's like, I see why the Rangers had a tough time with this. Like, she gives, she's just like, she has these powers and she has to use them. And at first she's like, I don't want to be director. But then later she's like, whatever, I guess I'm the director. So she's
very hands-on as a director.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, she's an everyman, every woman. I don't know. Even in the names of these like little materials that you can collect and assemble into your service weapon, there was one that I had to look it up. There's a confiscated motive, or intrusive pattern, or what was the other one? Untapped potential. There's just items you can collect. That's so cool. It's so mysterious. I don't know. I loved that you could set up the cheat mode, as it were, and play the game how you wanted. And you didn't have to use the powers, but if you wanted to get all of the trophies, you had to use them, just a little bit, which I really liked. The trophies weren't overly hard to get, and I like getting a platinum on a game I really like. And I didn't care for the style, like you were saying. I never turned off Film Grain or the other things, but there was one point in, I think, the Foundation DLC where, I'm just gonna spoil it, there's an altered item that is a video camera where you play a rail shooter.
Ooh,
and
that's cool.
It like the whole point is that it shows up as like neon colors and
like you're in an 80s movie.
Yes.
It does 80s music and synthwave.
It was
so
fantastic. That was when I realized how much I liked the style of the game. It kind of like came together for me. So I highly recommend you just break out that one.
Need to play more. Go for the platinum.
DLC. I really should. It's really easy. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyway, so my only point was that I wish that the main storyline was a little bit better, which is why I give it a 9 out of 10. But otherwise, it definitely would have been a 10.
Dang. I also forgot to mention that I love the flying ability a lot.
I wish she didn't look so uncomfortable while flying.
I mean, you're flying.
I guess. You're right. She's not.
And it's also a flight that you don't really have full control over.
Yeah.
Which I think is good for keeping it from being like overpowered. But
all right, Austin, tell us how much you love this
Okay.
game.
So I've played most of Remedy's other games, and while I didn't love Quantum Break, I didn't hate it, but it was kind of disappointing. And I really enjoyed Control, so like I'm glad that they took the feedback and kind of learned from their previous game. I love seeing it linked up with Alan Wake, because that's another. I love Alan Wake. I love the story there. I love that that's going to be continued here.
Yeah.
I actually really did like the style in this game. I liked the just gray nothing of the building contrasted with the deep reds of like when you'd walk into a hiss infested area, and the huge block letters when you'd walk into a new place,
yes.
like dead letters, and just like very interesting named stuff. The powers were really fun. I think my favorite power was where you would take control
Seize?
of enemies. Yeah, seize.
I never unlocked that one.
And so
What?
there were
Oh my god, sorry, keep going.
so there were these orbs that would like appear and just be healing everybody until you took those orbs out. And so I would seize the orb, and then it would be healing me and anybody else that I had seized. So I would like
Loved
build up
it.
this little
That's
army
cool.
to fight for me, which was fun. I love doing that. That was just really awesome. I pretty much never used the shield ability.
It had a cool,
I use
did
that
you
ability
unlock-
all the time.
Oh my god. What about where you could unlock it where you have it on and then you charge into someone and it does damage?
I just didn't like
Oh.
using it. I wanted to be on the offensive more. And if I wanted to shield myself, I would just go hide behind something.
That's
But I found it unintuitive for my playstyle to use the shield, so I just didn't use it, and that was a totally viable way to play, which was I think really cool.
I love.
The upgrades for the powers were really good,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
for your telekinesis, like being able to grab missiles out of the air and throw them at people,
Mhm.
or being able to grab big people and throw them around
Yes.
later. Like you said, the base story, not really anything to write home about. I think it's a very good starting point, like a great way to a great world to build off
I
of. It's not a very interesting story on its own, but it's such a great setting that you get all these side pieces that are just really fascinating, that you'll just happen upon. And I think I feel like you kind of rushed through the game maybe a little bit, Tyler, and
Yeah.
because I think you had played through it like in a day, right?
Oh my god.
No, I played it like off and on for like a week, but one day I was just like, I'm gonna sit down and beat this game, and then I just like played through
Right,
the
right.
rest. Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
focused on main missions and not side missions, which is why I didn't get a lot of these powers
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I think if you ever decide to go like for some more of the achievements in this game and you start going off to do side missions and some other things, I think you'll find some more to enjoy about it. But I definitely understand if you just went through the main story, like why you were not really that enthused by the world or the story itself. So, but for me, man, and I definitely recommend playing through the DLC, at least for just getting to play the second one, because it's good.
Well, I mean, I only played the first one, but that video camera scene
that's
was so
true.
good.
That is that I forgot that was in that DLC, and that is a wonderful side mission. I love that. The ashtray maze was super good. It's nice, like it's teased. You're kind of like, what's going on here? A friend of mine had told me, he was like, let me know when you complete the ashtray maze, because that was my favorite part of the game. So he had kind of hyped it up a little bit. I had heard the song separately.
Oh.
Like I didn't know it was for that section, but I had the soundtrack on vinyl
Oh,
and
I
had
see.
listened to it, and I was like, that's weird. I guess this is going to be like during the credits. And even with all that hype going in, when I went into that scene, it was still just amazing. Like everything was just like, oh, this is so cool. God, that's probably gonna be my most memorable gaming moment of like the last 10 years. Is my guess.
I feel like we could spend a whole hour just talking about it, but I definitely
Oh, yeah.
turned off Run for that section and just kind of strode through it. And like, I love when the parts opened up and there's a monster. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to shoot it, and then it would close, and they didn't have to fight it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the gunplay, and I liked that there was another game that I've played that reminds me of this, called Advent Rising, where you start off only having guns, and like at some point in the story you hit a turning point and like you have powers, And initially, your powers are pretty weak, but they're useful. But like you'll kind of use guns and powers together. And by the end, there's just really no reason to use guns anymore. And it's just like you only really use your powers. And I think this one did a better job of balancing, like keeping the gun relevant alongside your very powerful powers.
Agreed.
Yeah, this was a really great game. There was outside of the ashtray maze, there was never a point where I was just like elated of just like, oh my god, this is like kind of like what you said, like this. I never hit a point of like, this game is the best game I've ever played, but it was very consistently fun and very good. And it didn't really have any low points where I was just like, ugh, I can't believe I have to do this now. And so, yeah, I would say I would give this an 8 out of 10. This was just a really 8 for great. This is a great game.
Awesome, sweet. I like that. I like that hearing how you guys played it and how I played it is very different. Like, I played it very much like an action game. Like, I used shield and guns a lot and only used my powers when I had to. And I used like all the guns. Like, I loved every single one of them. Yeah. Pistol, shotgun, the SMG type one, the sniper one. Like, I would constantly change which guns I was using because I loved like all of them. And then I used cover and the shield thing a lot. But I would rarely, like, I would only fly if I had to go somewhere. I never got the mind control ability. So, like, part of my skill tree was just gray. It was just grayed out because I didn't even know that ability existed.
That's fun.
But it's nice that you can play this, like, in all kind, like, it's pretty flexible with how you play it, and you can still get to the ending. And I never felt like I was not powerful enough or that, I don't know, like I was doing something wrong to where I needed to grind, basically, or do side quests. Like, I felt like I could still proceed in the game, which was really nice. Okay. That was Control. We finally played it. A game of the year.
And within 2 years of release.
Yeah. Look at us playing new games. Anyway, speaking of new games, let's talk about some old games. So that was, like I mentioned before, that was our take on Control. The next 2 Video Game Club episodes have already been planned. So in 2 weeks, we will talk about Nier Automata. Hopefully, you've been playing that one. If not, you have 2 weeks, and whew, that's a big game to beat in 2 weeks.
No, I did it in 2 weeks. You can do it in 2 weeks.
Well, there you go. We should talk about what ending. Austin is the one ending E, right?
Ending E is the once you've gotten that, you have completed what we would consider the full story of the game.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm really excited to talk about that. And then our next game, which normally would have been a vote, but Austin demands it that everyone.
I did not. It was a tie. It was a tie. This was democratically decided.
That is true. It was a tie. It was a tie between what was the game? The other game.
Sonic Adventure and Fez.
Right.
And we already did Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
So
goodness.
This time,
the better game.
There will not.
So Fez is the 2 weeks after that. So if you want a head start, and our next side quest game vote is out right now, and it's wrapping up, and it was between Miitopia, Paper Mario and the 1,000 Year Door, and Wind Waker, and it looks like it will be Wind Waker. So that will be our next side quest game. And SD, the standard definition or high definition game, whichever one you want to play. I think generally the Wii U version is the version that people say is the one to play, right?
It's so pretty.
Unless you want to break out your Game Boy Advance and link cable and use
I forgot about the tingle tuner.
I don't know why they couldn't have put that as like an option on the Wii U gamepad for like a side person to play, right? But that is not in the HD version.
Gotcha.
However, other than that, you should play the HD version.
How are you gonna death hover if you don't have the tingle tuner? Such a great glitch. I feel like was there not a version of that discovered for the HD version? No, instead, I mean, they have different glitches. I think there's still whatever it's called, barrier skip. Anyway, we can talk about that
in
a couple months.
Yeah, we can. And we will. Thank you, everyone, for
game.
joining. Again, just as a reminder, you can catch us here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV every 2 weeks at 2 Eastern. Except maybe the Nier Automata stream. We will keep you posted in Discord. With the next stream being on July 18th, I think. Let me double check, because...
Or 19th.
Or 19th.
It depends.
18th or 19th, depending on... we've got some scheduling stuff we have to work out.
And don't worry if you can't catch the live stream. It will also be on YouTube. Before we leave, Austin, what should people be watching out for on the Bombchu side of things?
My worst nightmare is this week. It's looking like my compadres are going to be unavailable for the Humble Bundle, so we're going to figure out how that's going to work this week. And, yeah.
It's not making me feel bad at all.
Aww.
Mox, anything you want to plug?
I'm going to play Nier Replicant because we couldn't do it. No one, you guys said that's too much Nier. Whatever. I'm going to play it anyway and then play it again when we do it in a later side quest.
Dang.
Nice.
One thing I should also mention that Jerome brought up in chat is that we are working on a podcast version of Video Game Club as well. It's not up yet, but maybe soon. And when that goes up, we will be sure to let everyone know. Austin, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And Mox, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Tyler. This was Video Game Club, episode 27, Control, and we are out. I'd like to give a special shout out to Michael Slater, Blake Harms, and all of our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you, and thank everyone for watching.